Okay guys, welcome to today's class. So far we've learned how to make a message more appealing, more persuasive from different perspectives, such as the message source. We can also make best use of the emotions, and we want to build strong arguments. But when we talk about influence, we also need to consider some other factors, such as people around us, or some influence coming from the environment. So today we're gonna look at a theory from a different angle. This theory is called social cognitive theory. But first, I would like to share a story with you guys to illustrate the idea, the behind idea of this social cognitive theory. So this guy, his name is Robert Safran. And in the early 1980s, on his first day to his college, and he was warmly welcomed by some strangers in that town. And people there, they hugged him, they kissed him. But apparently, he had never met or he had never seen these people before. And these people, they were calling him another name. Apparently, these people got mistakenly took Robert as a different person. So with the help of these people, Robert got connected with the person these people were talking about. And in their first meeting, when they first met each other, both of them were totally shocked, because they looked almost identical with each other. And this is how the second person looked like. And his name is Edward Galland, and he went to the college for almost 1 year. And after talking with each other, these two guys found out that they were actually twins. And this story was quickly kind of reported by the local newspaper, by some media. And surprisingly, a few months later, another guy called David Kelman saw this news story of these twins and called them. And David said that you are not twins, you are triplets. I'm the third one. As you can see from this picture, these three guys, they looked almost identical. And because of this coincidence and the local newspapers report, these three guys, these three triplets, they finally got together. And after talking with each other, talking with their families, they finally figured out the story. So these triplets, they were born to a teenage girl in 1961. And they were split up by a local adoption agency. But none of these adoptive parents knew of the other brothers. So these three brothers, they were placed in families at different classes. So David Kelman, he was placed in a working class family, and his father was a grocery store owner. And second brother, Edward Galland, and he was placed in a middle class family, and his father is a professor. And last person, Robert Safran, he was raised in an upper middle class, and his father was a doctor. We also know some other information about these three families. For instance, David's father, this grocery store owner, is a very warm and loving man. And Robert's father, this doctor, was a kind of a stubborn and very strict person. And he had some conflicts with his children. And these three boys, actually, they were raised within 100 miles of each other, but they never knew the existence of each other. And these triplets, they were actually a part of a psychology experiment. They were intentionally separated into different types of families. And the intention or the goal of such an experiment is to answer the question, nature or nurture? In other words, how people behave, what kind of person they are. Is it determined by the environment or people's genes? But what the researchers found was very incredible. In some aspects, their lives are parallel with each other. They got similar personalities, they developed the same habits, even though they were raised in very different families. For example, they were all wrestlers at high school, and they smoked the same brand cigarette. They even had the same taste for women, and they were all big fan of Chinese food. So we can observe lots of similarities in their lives, even though they grew up in different homes. But is it the purely nature that shapes who we are, what kind of person we are? Well, not completely. Let's take a look at their career path and development. So for David, his father is the owner of a grocery store. He turned out to be an insurance agent. And Edward seems to be the one who was the most affected by this reunion. And he didn't get along very well with his father. So when he met his brothers for the first time, he felt, wow, this is my real family. So as a result, he put everything into being with his brothers. And later, he had showed some kind of increasing signs of bipolar disorder, and eventually he killed himself. And Robert, he's the son of the doctor, and he became a lawyer later. So we can see that even though our genes decide a lot of things, such as our taste, our habits, our personalities, but our families, the environment, the way we grew up also plays a very important role in shaping who we are today. So today we're going to look at the theory behind this story. It's called the social cognitive theory. And we're going to investigate into the possible factors shaping and influencing who we are today. Let's take a look at this theory. This social cognitive theory is one of the most important theories looking into how environment affects our behaviors. And this theory was proposed by this scholar. His name is Albert Bandura. And he was a psychologist in Stanford University. And the basic assumption of this theory is that we human beings, we are constantly interacting with both our social and physical environments. And it is through these interactions that we are learning things and we acquire and maintain new behaviors. And this theory was developed based on very well-known experiment called Bobo doll experiment. So next, I'm gonna first describe this experiment, and then I'll show you guys a very short video clip showing the whole procedure and the results of this experiment. So this experiment happened in 1960s. The researchers recruited 72 kids to this experiment. Half of them were boys and half of them were girls. And all these kids were aged between 3 to 6 years old. And these 72 kids, they were randomly assigned to one of the three groups. These three groups are first, a group with aggressive role model, and a group with non-aggressive role model, and a control group without a model. And the kids, each of these kids, they were led to a playroom individually. And they were seated in one corner of this playroom. And here came the adult model. This adult, was seated in another corner with something called Bobo doll. And this is how this Bobo doll looks like. It is an inflatable doll with the most weight accumulated at the bottom of this doll. So if you punch it or if you hit it, it won't fall. So let's talk about these three groups one by one. In the aggressive model group, the adult would aggressively hit and punch the doll for 10 minutes. And in the non-aggressive role model group, The adult would play with other toys and totally ignored this doll. So the adult didn't show any aggressive behaviors towards this Bobo doll. And the control group, the kids didn't get exposed to anything. So again, in this first group, aggressive role model, the kids observed this adult was punching and hitting and even kicking this Bobo doll. And for this non-aggressive role model, the kids observed the adult was peacefully playing with some other toys. And for the last control group, there was no model. And second stage of this experiment was that the kid was asked to play alone in the room, and their verbal and nonverbal behaviors would be observed. So what's the result? Do you want to make a guess? So first, you can imagine kids exposed to the aggressive role model. They actually later exhibited more aggressive behaviors in both verbal and nonverbal ways. And second, the researchers did observe a gender difference, such that boys were more aggressive than girls. So these are the two major findings of this experiment. First, kids assigned to the aggressive role model, they exhibited more aggressive behaviors. And second, boys are more aggressive than girls. So first, let's take a look. I'll show you guys a kind of really short video clip about describing this experiment. And then we're going to talk about this theory, social cognitive theory, and see how these results can be connected with this theory, or how can these results be explained by this theory. So take a look at this video and come back to the lecture. Okay, welcome back. So the basic idea of this theory is that learning occurs in a social context with a dynamic and reciprocal interactions between three things: the person, environment, and the behavior. So let's talk about each of these three factors one by one. So the person factor, it refers to any individual with some cognitive abilities. And this person or this individual is able to observe the environment, process information, and learn things. And the environment factor refers to the external social context, something happening outside. It could be your physical surroundings, such as your bedroom where you were raised, this whole world, and it could be even some messages transmitted to you. And last factor is a behavior factor, and this refers to the responses to the stimuli to achieve goals, such as how you behave in an environment given a goal, and how you respond to those stimuli in the environment to achieve your goals.